This other story out of California. Will convicted criminals get out of jail early in California? That's a question some are asking today after a new Supreme Court ruling. That ruling says California will have to reduce its prison population by upwards of 40,000 prisoners. The High Court ruling the overcrowded facilities subject prisoners to cruel and unusual punishment. Now today, the state of California insists it will comply with the ruling. So what happens next? We wanted to explore this. Donald Schweitzer is a former Orange County Deputy District Attorney. He's also a former police officer. Larry Levine is the founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants, and he's a former inmate as well. Evan Halper is Sacramento Bureau Chief for the LA Times, and we welcome you all because there's so many different sides to this story. And Evan, I think the image we have when we hear that headline is the prison gates open and the convicts just go running out. What is the reality of this headline?
The reality is it's unlikely to play out that way. The state has 2 years to meet the mandate of the court, and they already have a plan to shift a lot of prisoners to local facilities and other local custody programs. So what's likely to happen is thousands of prisoners will get shifted to local jails where there's some more space, and the state will provide them some funding to house those prisoners. But it's likely that some folks who currently are having to serve sentences, lower level violators like those who violate their parole and serve sentences of less than 90 days, could be released to home detention programs or other forms of custody where they're not in lockups.
So as far as a murderer, for example, a murderer won't get moved to a local or a county jail?
No, there's no plan under which any murderers would be released or get moved to local custody.
But Donald, the Supreme Court, the majority that ruled in favor of this, did say some adverse impact on public safety in some sectors could be expected, or is actually a possibility. What do you think about that with your history in law enforcement?
Jenna, there's going to be 46,000 convicted felons released early in California. I can assure you that we are not going to have a welcome home party for these people. This is going to negatively impact our communities. This was an anti-law enforcement decision. It did not properly weigh public safety, and it's going to turn the clock back to the 1980s where it wasn't safe to walk on our streets, where it wasn't safe to go out in a public place because of all the thieves and drug dealers that are out there. So this is a bad thing for California, and it was a bad decision.
Larry, you've been behind bars. You've been able to, get to know different prisoners. What is your reaction to what Don had to say?
Well, I think that U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall in 1969 really put it the best. An inmate, he doesn't shed his rights at the prison gates, and to leave them inside under those conditions is cruel and unusual punishment. Now, they're not going to let, everyone's right, they're not just going to let everybody go. A murderer isn't going to walk out and hit the streets. They're going to gradually evaluate people at different custody and security classifications and allow the people to go. But there's a secondary implication here. What are you going to do with all these people? The parole agents are going to be overworked. The halfway houses are going to be overworked. Now we're letting these people hit the streets. They're not going to have medical care. They're not going to have jobs. The economy's already tapped out. Yeah.
Hey, Larry, the law enforcement is going to be overworked. Police officers are going to have to rearrest these people, and we're going to spend millions of dollars bringing these people back to justice and putting them in a revolving door type of a system where they're going to be released.
Exactly. And
it's just going to be a joke. Law enforcement officers are going to take the hit on this. There's going to be a huge morale problem. People are going to start resorting to street justice again. This is a bad decision. It didn't have to be because the factual findings of the three-court panel were based on outdated information. There was other remedies that the court could have taken besides releasing 46,000 convicted felons into the streets of California.
Well, let me just jump in here because, Evan, your paper has extensively covered this story, and interesting to hear about economics and whether or not we have the money to actually deal with this problem in California or any state for that matter. And there's a real question here for taxpayers who've already paid to put these convicted criminals behind bars, who've already paid for them to live in these facilities, who have already paid all the people that have supported the courts as well. And then to hear Don say we might have to pay twice because they're going to have to go back in prison again. So how does it play out for the taxpayers here and the people that just want their streets safe?
Well, what taxpayers have paid for is a state prison system that's built to accommodate, I think, around 80,000 people. And what they have is more than 140,000 convicted felons in that prison system. And so,
but your paper, if I could, Evan, your paper also profiled some prisons in California. One, for example, that could potentially house 1,600 prisoners that only has 2. So is that
Jenna,
is the prison system?
Let me just correct you there.
Sure. That's
not a prison. That was a county jail, which goes back to my earlier point that the plan is to shift a lot of these state prisoners to county lockups. Right now, we're talking the Supreme Court decision was related to the state prison facility.
Don,
there's no room in our county jail system or other places to put these people. What we need to do
the whole
is
system's packed everywhere. It doesn't matter. Every state, every county jail, every federal prison, the whole system's just stressed out. You've got more people locked up, and the system was designed to accommodate.
But Don,
they got to come up with a plan.
And to come up with a plan, Don, you know, if one of our family members was in prison, God forbid, and was sick and wasn't getting treatment or didn't have the proper care because there was too many people.
Happens every day.
We'd probably be the first ones up at that prison saying, hey, they need to be treated. So does Larry have a point there that it's just the system is just broken overall?
Justice Ito, in his dissenting opinion, stated that the remedy is problem by problem. If we've got a problem with the medical facilities within our prison system, let's fix them. Let's just not release all these people into the system. That's not the remedy. Yes, there are problems in our prison system, but they should be fixed problem by problem. It's not the mass release of people.
Well, it'll be interesting to see
who's somebody who needs an operation? Should they have to wait a year, 2 years?
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
Somebody needs routine medical care.
Just to the point that Evan made, it'll be interesting to see, as he corrected me, and thank you, Evan, for that, if some of these prisoners move into a county prison that has all that room, maybe they'll get more attention than they do at some of these larger facilities. Donald, Larry, and Evan, thank you so much for joining us. It's a story we'll continue to follow to see how it develops. The ruling just yesterday, so the implementation to come on that.